In 1976, Fleetwood Mac walked into the studio to record one of the greatest albums ever made. They should have been celebrating. Their previous album had made them stars. They had money. They had momentum. They had 3 brilliant songwriters. And they had the chance to make the record that would define their career. There was just one problem. The band was falling apart. 2 members were breaking up. 2 others were ending a marriage. The drummer was dealing with the collapse of his own relationship. The atmosphere was tense. The arguments were real. The emotions were raw. And somehow, from all of that pain, Fleetwood Mac created Rumours. An album so polished, so melodic and so perfectly crafted that millions of listeners fell in love with it. But behind the beautiful harmonies was a band barely holding itself together. This is the story of how Rumours nearly destroyed Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac had already been through several lives before Rumours. They began as a British blues band in the late 1960s. Over the years, the lineup changed, the sound changed, members came and went. But by the mid-1970s, something extraordinary had happened. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks joined the band. Their arrival transformed Fleetwood Mac. Suddenly the group had a new sound. More Californian, more melodic, more accessible. Their 1975 self-titled album became a huge success. Songs like Rhiannon, Landslide and Say You Love Me introduced Fleetwood Mac to a much wider audience. The band had finally found the lineup that could conquer the world. Mick Fleetwood on drums, John McVie on bass, Christine McVie on keyboards and vocals, Lindsey Buckingham on guitar and vocals, Stevie Nicks on vocals. 5 very different people, 5 strong personalities, 5 musical identities. Together, they created magic. But personally, things were beginning to collapse. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham had been a couple before joining Fleetwood Mac. Their relationship was intense, creative and difficult. By the time Rumours was being written and recorded, their relationship was breaking down. Christine and John McVie were also separating after years of marriage. They were still in the same band, still playing together, still expected to create music together. But the marriage was over, and Mick Fleetwood was dealing with his own marriage falling apart. In most workplaces, this would be difficult. In a band, it was explosive, because Fleetwood Mac did not just work together. They traveled together, recorded together, promoted together, performed together. And then, every night, they had to turn personal heartbreak into music. The sessions for Rumours began in California in 1976. A major part of the recording took place at the record plant in Sausalito, just north of San Francisco. It was supposed to be the perfect creative environment. A professional studio. A place to focus. A place to capture the band at their peak. Instead, it became a pressure cooker. The songs were brilliant. The playing was brilliant. But the atmosphere was fragile. Band members were writing songs about each other, then walking into the same room to record them. Imagine ending a relationship, then having to sing harmonies on a song written about that breakup. Imagine hearing your private pain turned into a chorus. Imagine playing bass, drums or guitar while the person across the room is expressing their side of a story you lived through together. That was Rumours. It was not just an album about heartbreak, it was heartbreak being recorded in real time. One of the remarkable things about Rumours is how controlled it sounds. The album is smooth, elegant, radio-friendly, beautifully arranged. The harmonies are clean. The production is precise. The songs feel effortless. But making it was anything but effortless. The band were working long hours. Emotions were running high. Drugs and alcohol were part of the environment. The pressures of sudden fame were building. And yet, somehow, the work continued. That is what makes Rumours so fascinating. Many bands fall apart because of conflict. Fleetwood Mac turned conflict into fuel. They did not hide the emotional tension. They used it. The lyrics were direct. The performances were charged. The songs carried the weight of real relationships. Listeners could hear beauty. But underneath the beauty was confrontation. Take the emotional structure of the album. There are songs of accusation, songs of escape, songs of regret, songs of survival, songs that sound hopeful even though they were born from heartbreak. That contrast is one of the reasons Rumours became so powerful. The music often sounds bright, but the emotions underneath are complicated. It is an album full of sunshine and shadow, and that is very Fleetwood Mac, polished on the surface, chaotic underneath. The band's internal tension also shaped how the songs were arranged. Lindsey Buckingham pushed for sharp, inventive guitar parts and tightly controlled production. Christine McVie brought warmth, melody, and emotional clarity. Stevie Nicks brought mystery, drama, and poetic atmosphere. John McVie and Mick Fleetwood created the rhythm section that held everything together. That balance was crucial. Without it, the album could have collapsed into melodrama. Instead, it became a masterpiece of restraint. The songs were personal, but the arrangements made them universal. That is why so many people connected with the album. You did not need to know the details of the band's private lives. You could simply feel the emotion. Everyone understands love falling apart. Everyone understands regret. Everyone understands wanting to move forward while still looking back. Rumours captured those feelings in songs that were immediate and unforgettable. But success did not make the situation easier. As the album took shape, the band knew they had something special. But knowing that did not remove the pain. If anything, it made everything more complicated. The better the songs became, the more the band had to stay together. The album needed them. The record company needed them. The audience needed them. And eventually the success would become too big to escape. Rumours was released in 1977. The response was enormous. It reached #1. It sold in staggering numbers. It produced hit singles. It won Album of the Year at the Grammys. And it turned Fleetwood Mac into one of the biggest bands in the world. From the outside, it looked like triumph. From the inside, it was more complicated. The very album that made them global superstars had been built from the fractures in their personal lives. Their pain had become product. Their arguments had become art. Their breakups had become radio hits. That is a strange bargain, and it raises an interesting question. Could Rumours have been made without the chaos? Maybe not. That does not mean suffering is necessary for great art. But in this case, the emotional pressure gave the songs a rare honesty. The band were not pretending. They were living the story, then recording it. That is why Rumours still matters. It is not just a collection of well-written songs. It is the sound of 5 people turning personal collapse into musical precision. It is heartbreak with perfect harmonies. It is conflict with immaculate production. It is a private drama made public, but transformed into something millions of people could recognize in their own lives. And perhaps that is why it has lasted. Decades later, Rumours still sounds fresh because the emotions have not aged. Relationships still fall apart. People still say things they regret. People still try to move on. People still hope the future will be better than the past. Fleetwood Mac captured all of that, but the cost was enormous. The album did not destroy the band immediately. In some ways, it made them too successful to break up, but it changed them forever. After Rumours, Fleetwood Mac were no longer just a band. They were a global phenomenon, and also a traveling emotional storm. The world heard the melodies. The band lived the consequences. That is the strange legacy of Rumours. It is one of the most beautiful albums ever made, and one of the most painful. It nearly destroyed the people who created it, but it also made them immortal. Every great song has a story, and sometimes every great album does too. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the stories behind the songs for more music history, classic rock stories, and the moments behind the records we still love today. Thanks for watching.